Hey everyone, it's Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Thanks so much for coming by to check out another video. Well, it has happened again. Yes, it has happened again. I have gotten in trouble on eBay related to selling pictures of scantily clad women. I can't seem to avoid this problem from popping up repeatedly. So the first time that it happened, many of you know the story very well. For those of you who don't, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing here. It's documented in these two videos here, and I'll link to the first one at the end, which is related to some Jack Daniels picture frames that I was selling that had women with bikinis and Jack Daniels liquor and stuff. And essentially what happened there was that Jack Daniels caught wind of it and was upset because they did not produce these images. They were created in China and set in these picture frames and then sold over here in the US, and I was reselling them on eBay. Now, for those of you who are brand new, just know I did not know that those were images that were not created by Jack Daniels. In fact, originally when I started, I was 100% believed that they were created by Jack Daniels, but that doesn't matter at the end of the day. If it's not created by the company, they are fully within their rights to ask eBay to take them down, and whenever they put in what's called a VeRO request through eBay, eBay by law must take it down as long as the person making the claim or the entity making the claim is truly someone who has the rights to make that claim. Now, this program through eBay, for those of you who don't know, it's called VeRO, which stands for Verified Rights Owners. And you would be shocked. You should go to eBay. In fact, I'll put a link to it down in the description section where you could go to eBay's VeRO page and check out how many brands are listed on there that you are technically not supposed to sell, and words you are not supposed to use on eBay or you will get hit with a VeRO claim. One of them is Velcro. You're not supposed to use that term. You're supposed to use the term hook and latch. Or other terms like fasteners, but you can't use the term Velcro unless it was actually something made by the actual Velcro brand. They're very protective of it. Another one is the term onesie. There's all sorts of ones. Minecraft is pretty strict. So you got to really be careful with things, and you got to be familiar with these different VeRO situations. Now, when the situation with Jack Daniels happened, I didn't have a choice. The pictures were taken down. I had like a few of them up at the time, like 2 or 3, and I never relisted them, never put them back up or anything like that. And if you watch those 2 videos, you'll see in there I have no issue whatsoever with Jack Daniels making the VeRO claim. And so once they said, hey, this isn't our stuff, we didn't make it, no problem. Took it down. Now, I haven't had an issue since then regarding any kind of a VeRO complaint on any brand, because I am pretty familiar with the topic. But this one, I've got to tell you, this one is a new one on me. What happened? So let me get into this. Give you a little bit of a backdrop before I go into the specific details. Number one, many of you know I focus a lot on selling comic books. I specialize on or in comic books and comic related items, which includes comic book art. Now, I sell a ton of other stuff, especially vintage and collectible items outside of comics, but I really do know the comic industry pretty well, including the art. And so one of the things you have probably seen, in fact, I might even go tomorrow morning and film it if I could get there, I'm not sure, is when I go to the local comic book conventions. And one of the things you may remember from those videos is that I film sometimes like a line of basically chairs and tables where there are comic artists that are set up and they are drawing sketches. Now, these are often up and coming artists. Now, some of them are established ones, but typically at these smaller conventions, they're up and coming artists. And what they do to support themselves and to support their career is that they draw their own unique characters, but they also draw reproductions of and in their own likeness, but and in their own style of other comic book characters that they did not originally create. So, for example, they might draw a picture of Batman, or they might draw, a sketch of Spider-Man, or the Incredible Hulk, or Silver Surfer, something like that, and they'll sell it for $20, $30, $40. So, or they'll do things on demand. Someone might come by and say, "Hey, could you draw me a picture of the Thing?" And then they'll say, "Okay, sure." And they draw it, and there you go, and they sign it. The person goes off, paid $20, got a signature, so on and so forth. That is extremely, extremely common in the comic book industry. So keep that in mind for what I'm going to tell you. Now, I did tell you that I purchased a big lot, and other times I picked this stuff up too, of and from other places, of comic book art, and I have been selling some of that periodically on eBay, and I tend to do very well with it. Now, I'd say the vast majority of the art that I sell is art that is by the original artist that drew the character. So for example, I've sold a lot of, you've heard me talk about Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose. That's done by Jim Ballant. I have sold a lot of that art and have made good money with it. But as you'll see here, and this was a sale I made just the other day, just last weekend, I took a best offer, so the sale price was $117.50. Person offered me $100. We met in the middle. This is Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose, the character I was just talking to you about that Jim Ballant drew. However, you'll notice that the artist who signed this is not Jim Ballant. It is a famous artist, George Perez. George Perez, very, very well-known artist, and really it was a very good likeness of Tarot. It's not exactly how Jim Ballant would draw it, but this is classic George Perez, and because he's a big name, because it's an original sketch that went for good money. Here I could just click on it here, where you could see in more detail that that's George Perez's signature. You could see the sketchings in pencil and of the marker. So I have a history of selling this stuff, again, on eBay. Sells very well. Again, this is an established practice in the comic book industry. In fact, when comic book artists, if you watch documentaries on comic book artists, there's several films and documentaries on this, what you'll see is the way they break into the industry often is that they will basically show up to a comic book convention where there are comic book executives like San Diego Comic-Con or New York City Comic-Con, and they will bring sketch pads with them that are filled with comic art. And again, partly their own unique characters, but also their own likeness of established characters that they did not create. Okay, so now you have that backdrop of what I'm going to tell you, this backstory. So I wake up this morning, I'm minding my own business. I'm not bothering anybody. Go through my emails, and sure enough, I see your listing has been removed. Copyright violation. Now, honestly, to tell you, my first thought when I saw that was to instantly look in the beginning to see if it said you cannot sell on eBay for 30 days. Because that's what happened the last time to me. When I had to deal with this issue with Jack Daniels. Fortunately, I did not have to deal with that this time. But what it says here is your listing has been removed, copyright violation, unauthorized use. So it says the listing has been removed. It also says that they've credited any fees or anything like that. Down below, and I'm not going to put his email address here, but I'm going to show you the picture that was removed. Okay, and this link, by the way, to the VeRO program, I'm going to link to it down below in the description section. I advise you to go check it out to see some of the brands that you don't want to list their names on eBay. Another one is OtterBox. Be very, very careful with anything OtterBox. I wouldn't even bother listing OtterBox stuff. There's a lot of it on there, but a lot of it gets taken down. You get hit with these VeRO complaints. Anyway, let me show you what I had for sale. Now, there's no nudity involved in anything that I'm going to show you here. It's suggestive, of course. For those of you not familiar, this character is Dawn. Now, you wouldn't know that necessarily if you don't follow comic books. And in fact, another reason you wouldn't know it is, as you can see, it doesn't say Dawn anywhere on the on this page whatsoever. It's not there. Now, you will see an artist's name down here, Fabio. This is 2009. That's when Fabio, I believe he's a Brazilian artist who created this. Let me move it up a little for those who might not be able to see it. So right there. Now, Fabio's not the original artist of Dawn. The original artist of Dawn is Joseph Michael Linsner. Now, turns out Joseph Michael Linsner is the one who filed the VeRO complaint. The actual artist himself filed the VeRO complaint, not a comic book publishing company, but the actual artist himself. Now, let's take a look at Joseph Michael Linsner's his drawing of this same character, Dawn. And by the way, this one's called Cry for Dawn. A giveaway that it's Cry for Dawn, by the way, is you'll see up here. I'm not trying to zoom in on that part, I promise. I'm gonna get in trouble. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so right here you could see these tears coming down. That is, those are her tears, and there's a comic book series called Cry for Dawn. So whenever you see those two tears in a redheaded woman comic book character, chances are it is Cry for Dawn. Now, let's take a look at what Cry for Dawn actually looks like. This is Cry for Dawn right here. That's actually Joseph Michael Linsner drawing the Dawn character. Now, one of the things you could argue with this is that, you know, from the artist perspective, and I would not have a problem if this was the issue of why the VeRO complaint was filed. You could have an issue where the artist sees this character, this one over here, that was, you know, not done by him, and says, you know what, I don't think this really looks like my character. I don't think it's a fair representation of her. I think it harms my character's brand. I don't want it. I don't want it being sold. It's mine. I own it. And it's true. He does own the intellectual copyrights to it. And if that's the reason why, I have zero issue with that and don't mind at all taking it down. I mean, it is taken down. I wouldn't try to put it up again or anything like that. I mean, they do look different. You know, they're not entirely the same, obviously. I mean, they're two different artists. And so, you could see him potentially making that argument. Now, just so you know, I did reach out to him. And if I get a response back, I may let people know what he said, depending on how the conversation goes. I mean, I'll have to gauge it from there. So let me take it back though. So that's one potential reason why he may have an issue with it. But let's just take a broader look at this. Okay, so many of you who may not even be into comic books, and maybe you just remember just looking around on the newsstand in the 1980s. This is a pretty famous cover for Mad Magazine back in the day, and it's Alfred E. Neuman dressed up as Batman. Now, did Mad Magazine get the permission of DC Comics to draw Batman? Plus, not only is it Batman, they've got a Superman logo on him as well. Did DC Comics, now Mad Magazine, remember, Mad Magazine made a lot of money off this. Okay, it's $1.50 an issue. They probably sold millions of copies. Did DC Comics sue Mad Magazine? Absolutely not. They didn't. And why didn't they? Could they have? Yes, they could have. Did they? No. Now, why not? Most likely because two reasons. One, it's parody, and free speech does have extra protections when you are making a parody of something, especially if it's something famous. So in an odd way, the more different that something looks compared to what it originally was supposed to be, the greater protections there actually are under the law. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take any of this as legal advice. I'm just telling you this based on what I know and what I have researched about this issue, not only recently, but in the past as well. But it's not just about that. It's not just about parody. The other issue is that if you could argue, depending on how you want to look at it from a business perspective, is that DC actually winds up making out in the positive by having this out there, because it gets the character out there. It shows that it's being admired in some way. People see the Batman character. They maybe get more interested in, hey, I want to pick up a Batman book or a Superman book. And it's hard to argue really how this has a negative economic impact on the Batman brand. So this is again something that is common, that you will have other companies or other artists, like I showed over here, will draw another comic book character that is not something that they created themselves. Now, I said earlier that I would not really have a big issue with if the reason why the artist, Joseph Michael Linsner, filed a VeRO complaint on this is because he feels that this is not, good representation of his character. But I think it may go more deeply than that, and I'll find out more if he does respond to me. But in looking around, here's one of the things that I see. And I think this probably plays a big role in it. Joseph Michael Linsner is selling his artwork on eBay, and he has his own artwork page there. Now, one of the things you will notice here as you go through it is that he is not only selling his character Dawn. You could see there's the tear going down, but he is also selling other characters. And this is a character, Vampirella, and I'll even show you, there's a comic book called Dawn and Vampirella that, he was involved in, that he did. This is his art. He did not create Vampirella, okay? Frank Frazetta drew Vampirella very early on. There were other comic book artists early on that were drawing Vampirella. It was not him. Yet he is drawing it. Not only that, here's another. Now this is one he is selling himself. This right here. These pieces of art here, he is selling himself. But he did not create that character. Here you could see is a comic book that was done by him that has Vampirella on it. And here you could see this is someone else selling it. Admittedly, it's not the artist, but this is someone else selling it. That's Harley Quinn and Batman. Now, he did not create Harley Quinn and Batman, yet he drew Harley Quinn and Batman. So, this is where I have an issue. I would have an issue if the reason why the artist filed a VeRO complaint is because solely based on the factor that, hey, you know what? I created this character and no one else should be drawing it except me. Now, don't get me wrong, I would not have a problem with that line of arguing if this artist was not drawing other people's comic book characters as well. So that's where I have a problem. It seems like a double standard. So I don't know. I'm willing to hear the guy out. And like I said, I have contacted him and, I could do a follow-up video if I hear back. There might be a little bit of a back and forth. I don't know. We'll see. But that's basically what happened. I did want to let you know about this because if you do happen to come across, and I know at this point I do have a lot of people who are following me who are into comic books. Harry, you're probably watching this video. I'm curious what people in the comic industry think about this issue, and let me know down below in the comments. But you should be aware that if you see this, this artist is likely going around doing searches for his name or for his character, and he is filing VeRO complaints on people. I could tell you that Jim Ballant, and I've sold a lot of Jim Ballant art, and I've, like I said, I sold this piece here to George President. Jim Ballant didn't file a VeRO complaint against this, and I asked Joe. I don't say Joe like I know him personally. I don't. But I asked him. I said, what's the issue? I said, would you have had an issue if George Perez drew it? So I don't know. I mean, this artist Fabio, I don't even think he's around producing art anymore. I mean, so I don't know. Again, well, there's a little bit we've got more to figure out on this, but this is at least the initial phase of this. Now, just to wrap this up, just as a kind of a general tip, again, this is not legal advice, but when you go out, if you are looking at art and it's not something that was created like it's a representation of something that was not created by the original artist. If you want to be 100% safe, my advice to you is don't get it. That would be my advice to you. If you want to be 100% safe, just buy and deal with art that is done by the original artist who made the character. That's the guaranteed 100% conservative way to make sure you don't have any issues or any problems. However, if if you want to take a chance, and it's entirely up to you if you want to take a chance, couple things to keep in mind here just to wrap up. One, the more original the piece, the better. Okay, so what I mean by that, I don't mean that when I say the more original that it was hand sketched compared to a print. I mean the more unique that character looks, that you could still tell it's the same character, but yet you could still tell it's very different from the original artist. That actually provides more protection. There is something called the fair use doctrine, and lawyers could argue this back and forth in terms of whether or not, basically what it boils down to is, fair use doctrine is there a free speech argument to be able to reproduce certain things that otherwise would get a copyright intellectual property protection. And I can't go into that's a whole topic that you could do hours of lectures on. I can't get into that in great detail here, but suffice to say, it is a gray area sometimes, and you could go back and forth arguing it. So I'm just giving you a couple just general things to keep in mind. So another thing is that you want to be more concerned about is if the item is mass produced. If the item is mass produced, you are going to have a greater chance that you are going to run into some kind of legal difficulty or just some kind of trouble with regards to the person who originally, or the company that originally owns that brand. So in my instance right here, this, as far as I know, not this, but this right here, as far as I know, this is the only sketch of this. I've never seen another one. I believe it is an original. I'm not sure, but that's what I believe. I could tell you it is an original. I don't know if, maybe he made a couple of them. Now, I could tell you with the Jack Daniels ones, there were multiples of those that were made. They were mass produced. I mean, I would get them in bundles, periodically, but those were mass produced. So that would be more of a risk, that situation, than this one would be. The other thing is you will have less of a likelihood of getting in trouble with this type of stuff in general if the piece that you are selling does not have the brand name on it or the logo. Now with the Jack Daniels items, they did have the logo on it. They had the name. It said Jack Daniels everywhere on that thing, which was another reason why it was so much of a problem and so much of an issue. But you could see here, it doesn't say the name Dawn on it. It doesn't say Cry for Dawn. It doesn't say the artist's name. It doesn't say anything like that on there. So you really do have to be in the know if you're going to buy this, that is that particular character. So that's really it. I just wanted to kind of, let you know kind of what was going on and give you an update on this. And, my goal is when I do these types of videos is just show you, number one, I make mistakes. Sometimes bad things happen to me. Everything's not always, rosy and terrific. This could have been a lot worse, which is why I'm in a better mood right now. I mean, they could have, sometimes with these VeROs, like what happened with Jack Daniels, they'll knock you down for a month, potentially. So, and if you have repeat VeRO violations, by the way, you could lose all of your seller privileges on eBay. So, you really want to be up on this. Remember, go down below in the description section and you will see a link to VeRO information you'll want to know. But hopefully by me discussing these things with you, it brings things more to awareness. And, my main goal with this is that other people don't have or fall into the same issue that I fell into. So while I feel that I am, pretty well situated after the Jack Daniels situation not to run into that situation again, this one dealing with art and a specific artist is just, is different to me, and is just much different from what I'm used to, just given my experience and my knowledge and my business dealings in the comic book community and in the comic art community. So I realize there could be different and polarizing opinions on this topic. All I ask is that if you're going to leave a comment down below, just make it respectful. No need for any nastiness. I will delete anything like that. So, just keep it respectful. People could agree, disagree. That's fine. I'm really curious what you think about this. And do you think that the artist should have filed a VeRO? I mean, your answer might be, it depends. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of my take on it. Like I said, you know, one situation, one line of argument, I could see it. The other way, I think there would be a double standard in that situation. So we'll see. We'll see if he writes back. So that's pretty much it. If you like this video, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Come by to the Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. It's a lot of fun in there, folks. You don't want to miss it. We have almost 8,000 members in there. There's just so many cool events. We've got a cool little March Madness event going on in there. Where these fictional characters are kind of battling it out back and forth in terms of who will be the better reseller, and there's a big prize at the end. So we've got our Elite 8 that is going on today, and we're going to knock it down to a Final Four pretty soon, and then a championship. So just a lot of fun kind of stuff in there. A lot of educational stuff too, but we also like to have fun. So come on by, very positive, very supportive, and check me out on Instagram. That's at prime_time_treasure. See you all back at the next video, everyone. Take care.